And we're back. It is COMP229. We are Advanced Web Application Development here at Centennial. In the fall 2016 semester, we are week 11, part 1 of our broadcast. Okay, so we started a little bit later because we did a little bit of a survey and we did some other things. We talked about some stuff. And I got to talk about some for us. It's all around the exam, right? We got to talk about the exam. So right now, with what I'm giving you today, which is your final project, left from an evaluation perspective in the course, 9, like a 0, 0, 9. I'm talking about, right? So a couple things we can do. I think I'm going to probably do, there's probably going to be another lab or so. We'll see how it goes as we go towards the end, because I want to do, from a time frame perspective, we're sitting at November 23rd, right? 7 days from now, so that next week, it'll be week 12, and that'll be November 30th, right? November, officially, right? So week 12 will be the second last class we'll have. 12. Week 13, remember for those people who I've been talking about every week, just to make sure you guys know, there'll be no classes. It'll be a workshop week for you guys, right? 13 will be the 7th of December, right? And then I'll see you guys again for your final exam, right? That means next week is a critical week. Next week, if talk about the exam, right? And any special topics, right? So next week, we got to cover the shopping cart. I got to finish that off next week. I'm going to start it today, as much as I can today with the shopping cart, and finish it off by next week. I also got to talk about your final project this week, right? So that's how it's going to go, right? So this week, we're starting week 11. Week 12, you get one part due. Week 13, you get another part due. Week 14, you get the last part due. It's going to roll for the next little while, okay? So like I said, there'll be no classes on week 13 because I'm going to give you your time to do your final project, right? So you're done. So for the stuff due part 2, and we'll talk about what it's going to do or whatever, there's not going to be any classes. However, your final exam right now, the way that we're rolling, right? That means the worst case scenario, worst case, if I went crazy, the most your exam is worth is 10%, which means somewhere, right? Just putting it out there, like it's going to happen. So like you're going to have 101% out of 100, right? So there, it's only worth 9% the exam, right? That's a good exam. It's a little test is really what it is. To wrap up MVC, that's what it's going to be about. And if I can build it in over the next little while, what I'm going to try and do is make it so that the exam is optional. Let me put it up. And I'll tell you why. I'll announce the details of this next week when I get to it, and I'll tell you why. If I make it optional, okay, if I make it optional, or I'm an optional piece to it. If you wanted to, you could do a practical exam. Maybe I'll make it so that you can write a written exam. If you're someone who doesn't, either way, it's only but I want to see if I can make it so that it's, you know, it's make to finish off this semester nice, because you've had a lot of our course. I got to say, this has probably been the most progressive done. We've done a lot more than some of the others, actually all the sections that have done. If you talk to your colleagues, your classmates in other courses, they're going to say, what's Tom doing different, right? And I don't mean to do that because I want to pack it full to make your life crazy, because I know everyone's got 6 courses. It's because I really feel that in the workplace you can do stuff, right? At the same time, I want to lighten your load for the last few weeks. That's what I'm trying to do here, right? So when I break down a project, it's to make your life easier. It's not because I want to make it more difficult. So your final project is actually be worth 30% of your final grade, right? But it's like a big 30% assignment, which is impossible to do. I'll break it down into 10, 10, 10. So each of the milestones, the next 10%, nice and easy. They're all you can base your project off of your fantasy restaurant, right? You need first piece for your concept, right? If you really want to do that, you can work with up to 4 people, so it's going to make your life a little easier, hopefully, right? Okay, just keep your scope down, right? That's the idea here. Don't make it so crazy. At the end, what I want you to have is a shopping cart, and today and next day, this week and next week, you should have all the pieces that you need to complete your project, right? I'm not asking you to make your own, right? So that way you have, I'll give you an example of how it works. Use that as a template. It's okay, right? If you want to make it fancy, fine, fancy. But I give you a shopping cart that works, that you can use for your project. That's what I'm going to give you. Okay, so logistically, we're going to be talking about security, how to implement security, which you're going to see is very easy. We're not going to speak a lot about I'm not going to talk to every one of them. I'm going to focus on the things that you need for security. Get right into MVC Music Store to start doing the shopping cart. Also talk about security a little bit too. We're going to talk about how to secure your site a little bit. And then, if I can get as much of the shopping cart this week, if we can spin it, I'll do the shopping cart. We'll finish off MVC, and we'll do a little bit of Angular with Web API if we can fix it too. However, if we can't, I'm putting it out there because Angular's gone through a transition, right? It's moved from Angular 1.5 to Angular 2 now. Angular 2 is kind of weird, and it's work to do. And it's really a different kind of framework. If you've never seen it before, it's truly an MVC kind of framework, or MVVM, if you will. Some students with a little bit more challenge, right, than others, right? If you never worked with Angular before, I can give you the pattern for what does he do it. Like, it's that different. It's really, really different. So it's kind of replacing Razor in many ways, right? So Razor, gone. If we have time next week, if we have time. If we don't have time, though, I may want to talk a little bit about what's going to be on the final exam, because the final exam is going to be an MVC exam, right? It's going to be nice and easy for you guys to do. I'm not going to make it hard at all, and it won't take the 4 hours. So either way, I want to make your last week here, week 14, stress as possible, right? The last thing I want to just give you guys stress, right? Because everything do 13 is going to be all about stress, exam. And I don't want to do that to you here, right? Because you guys have enough stress with me. So to me, if you demonstrate your final project, pretty much to me, I think you've demonstrated everything we need to know with MVC plus everything we did with. As long as I have those two things, I want to see if I can make it so that somehow maybe juggle the marks a little bit, and so that the final exam is optional. And I mean that is in like the first half of your semester, or you didn't do good on your first midterm, you know, the midterm exam. Final exam is pure bonus. So 10% bonus, the whole thing, right? If you do it. And if you get 1% out of 10%, that's 1% bonus. You're not going to lose any more. I'm doing my best. I'm doing, what do they say in India? They say, you know, one student says to me, he goes, Tom, I'm doing my level best, is what he said to me, right? Words level best back at you right now. I'm doing my level best, man, right? I'm the kind of professor, you love me or you hate me. I'm trying to make it easier for you guys. I'm not a difficult marker, truly. You know me if you've had me before in the course with me. You have all the requirements in front of you. If you give me what I've asked you to give me, if you've submitted everything, you're going to be just fine, right? If you're someone who's submitted the minimum, you're going to get. But if you follow my rubric, and if you did what I asked you to do, and you did all the bonuses, you know, if one of the eddies is very well in the course, there's nothing. I'm not hiding anything in terms of how I mark. Like, it's there. Whatever it says on the paper. For the challenge you have is, can you push yourself? Can you push yourself to do extra? And I think it's a good opportunity here. I'm trying to give you a leeway with you, right? So bear with me. You know, everyone's got their challenges. This has been one of my. Okay. In terms of you know, what we're doing today, again, we're hitting security, but what I want, it's important for us, this first recording, to be all around your final project, so that we talk about it in detail, so no one is surprised about what the scope is. I'm actually talking to you about it weeks ago. Like we've been, kind of explained in some high-level preview last online. If you look at eCentennial, all the details for each of the weeks should be up and available. Please check to see that that's true. And if it's not, then I'll make some corrections. So here I'm looking at week 11, and I'm looking at the final team project, right? Let's scope it out a little bit, and I'll kind of bring it up so we can also see it's worth 30, all right? The whole thing, that means the 3 parts together. I can't give you all 3 parts as one assignment. I've broken it down to little assignments, right? Each assignment has its own little rubric, right? And it makes it very simple for you. So here's what you gotta do for next week. You're gonna build an e-commerce website, right? And if you look at the description of what you're building, that's way down here. But I put all the due dates and stuff for the, all right, so here it is. So working in a group up to 4, or on your own, if you're really crazy. I don't know why you would do this, right? And utilizing your, create a mock e-commerce web application. Mock means doesn't have to actually have credit card purchases or money transfer. In fact, I'd ask you not to do that. If I know people can do it with there's other services you can use. And make something you sell. Please do not make something you really sell here in this course. There have been times, I'm going to say this in the past, but I've done this course, this website, and they've had issues. I'm going to leave it at that, right? There's something to sell, anyway. Be careful what you do. We're not really selling anything, okay? We're just making it so that you know the process. That's what I want you to get out of this, okay? The web a catalog of items like a menu, okay? And you'll be selling that share a common theme. So it doesn't have to be computer parts. It could be, like I said before, one of my students did plushies of mass destruction, where they actually sold little stuffed dolls, with, I don't know, baby Godzilla and other things, right? Anyways, so that was the one they did. The web application will do that. Okay, you may use your fantasy restaurant from assignment 2, which is what we just did, right, as a starting point for this project, right? So if you want to, you don't feel like doing that, and you want to make something completely different with your team, especially if both teams have, I don't know, fantasy restaurants that just don't match. Great another fantasy restaurant, or they're tired of the fantasy restaurant. They want to do something else more interesting, like they want to sell computer parts, so they want to sell, electronics. Want to sell, I don't know, no guns, right? Please don't try and sell anything of destructive value, like truly destructive value. And please G13, okay? So there's no, you're not selling sex toys or anything else. Okay, I'm just putting it out there, right? I'm saying it because really strange submissions in the past, and it's like this: Tom, ha, I'm selling this stuff, right? Like, a marijuana store or whatever. Please don't do this. Not a joke for me. Keep it serious. I mean, you can joke. Your product's sexy humorous or illegal humorous, and we're good, right? I think I'm just putting it out there because I just don't want anyone to come up with something and then go, and then, why did you give me such a bad mark? It's not because I'm not a bad marker. I just, when I see something that's inappropriate, so please be appropriate with your submission. That's what I'm saying here. Again, you'll be required to create additional page, which we don't have you may not have in your restaurant. I didn't ask you for an about page, but you have asked a detailed contact page. That's fine. And other pages used as product management, right? Because, for example, you may want to do things like your fantasy, and you got bonuses to do things product management. If you wanted to add menu items and so on, you have to be a registered user, right? And that was bonus. That's not bonus here. It's required products that you're selling, because that's what we do. We have e-commerce. You want to add new products, take what products, those things you're going to have to be able to do, right? You're going to have, now this is what's important, anonymous users should be able to access all pages associated with the home controller, including the landing page. You don't make it so that you have to log in to get your about page. That makes no sense. All right. Anonymous users should be able to product catalog page, browse, right, and add items from the product catalog page to the shopping cart and modify shopping checkout. So there's different states, right? You're shopping. Like if I have a shop at Amazon, right? Let's go do this now together. Let's shop at Amazon. So what the hell? Let's do some shopping. So if I go to Amazon.ca, and this is like, if we're going to see like, you know, the retailer, one of the top retailers in the world, it would be Amazon, right? Now, there's some really good things about Amazonism. I'm looking for something. Here, tell me what do you like to buy? If you're going to buy something, if I'm going to buy you something in Amazon, huh? Clothes. Okay, what kind of clothes? Dresses? All right, so if I say dresses, right? For women, right? Being very specific, right? Into all departments. Then you can, and like a catalog, they have a dress. That's pretty good prices, actually, for some of them. And other, the dress, this is the catalog. They give you a short description of what it is. There's a little thumbnail, right? Just like I actually do with your menu for your in the restaurant. Beyond this, I mean, it tells you the prices, but we didn't do any kind of way of adding it to cart. Notice my cart has 0 items, right? Amazon, this is not what you're going to build. But let's just look at it. If I'm going to buy this red dress, right? Let's just say, right? And say, for example, I like the red dress. I like this red dress. It's only 38 bucks, you know, as an example. Let's choose a size. Show me the size. What, right? Small, no small, small. Come on, right? There's no large, right? At least not here. Right? So, no, may arrive even already. May arrive after Christmas, right? And it tells you the price, $42.99 plus 20 bucks shipping. So it's not really that cheap, right? I mean, this is what the dress is, or whatever. It gives you a larger image of the dress, the item, right? And the final price, right? Now I can do this all as an anonymous user. Now notice that I'm already logged in. So if I actually did a couple clicks, dress. But I don't want to do that. I'm telling you, this is how it would be. As an anonymous user, I shouldn't be able to check out. Only validated check out, because that's how it works. You can also check out as a guest sometimes, right? But most time you have to register in most shops to check out, most places. All right, that's number one. So let's look at other retailers. So what other retailers are there? How about Apple? Right, Apple's also one of the biggest retailers in the world, and Microsoft would be the other one, right? So if we look at Apple, you can see that they have the same kind of idea of going into different categories. Like, for example, let's say I want to buy a Mac, right? Javid's going to buy me a new Mac for Christmas, right, Javid? And I want a new bar, right? I know, eh? And I want to buy it, right? Because I want to do this MacBook Pro. What they do is sometimes they have a configuration. What kind of color you want for your MacBook Pro? You know what? I want space gray, right? And let's say for my space, I want, you know, the 12 because I want more power, right? And you can see that, you know, this is the MacBook. Actually, this is the 12-inch MacBook. It's not what I want. MacBook Pro, this one. No. So let's go back. I want the 15-inch MacBook Pro 7 with this one here, this $3,200 model, right? It's shipping in 3 to 4 weeks. I know. And I wanted, you know what, let's upgrade it, and let's make it so it's a 2 terabyte SSD for another $1,200. Hey, come on, let's go all the way. And $400, and that's not bad, right? And then, you know, look, it's got pre-installed software. Did I miss something? I think I missed something. Did I miss something? I think that's pretty cheap. I thought it was $4,800, right? I don't care about software. This is just extra software. I don't want to install software, right? So this is my computer. Now notice if I click add to back in Apple, is just the shopping cart, right? But I can't check out unless I'm registered. All right. So you can shop online for your catalog. You organize a list, or whether you organize it in categories, it doesn't matter how you do it for the final project, right? But whatever you're selling, to cart, okay? And when you check out, you have to be registered, okay? Right? So all this stuff I can do. I can do everything before checkout. I can be an user. I can have to be logged in. B, stores products will be displayed in the product catalog page in either a list or card format. You can choose, and there's others. You can choose whatever format makes sense for you, right? Both formats will display the name of the product, a thumbnail image of the product, a short description, the product page, product price, and an optional add cart buttons, right? That you can actually choose right away to add the cart without actually going into details at all, right? And you know, Walmart is another one. That's another big retailer out there, right? Walmart.ca, Black Friday coming up, right? I'm just putting it, right? Well, eBay. Let's just stick to these ones for now. But let's say, for example, I want to buy a dress at Walmart for some reason. I don't know, right? Here's a, you know, there's different clothes. Let's talk about women, right? So we're talking women. You know, see, maybe just click women. There we go. And we can see that there's different clothes. Well, it won't be a dress. It'll be you know, one. But notice how they are right here in Walmart. But they have this add to cart button in the card. So before, I don't even have to go into the details. I can just allow it, right? So that's the other option. If you notice, it says that. It says you can have an optional add to cart button inside your card, like the card that you're showing. If the user clicks the name label or the thumbnail image, he will be redirected to the product's detail page. If the optional add to clicking it will add the product to the shopping cart right away. All right, so that's really what B is. C, your product detail. It includes the product name, a full-size image of the product, a longer description. Please don't put long description, and please don't put long description. As just got that already one time, right? Even this semester, where I said don't use long description. Someone put in short description in the list. They said actually then the description, right? And then and the details page they said long description and the description. That's wrong. Don't put long description. I can longer description. It's you know. All right, so then we'll be directed to, so you get your a back button or other control, whatever it is, should be also be able to include it to take the user back to the product catalog page. Include it. It has to be included on the details page. Come on. I mean, if you don't have it on one, you should have it on the other, right? Click on the add to cart button. Will add the okay. So if you click onto it. Okay, the shopping cart functionality. This is a totally different piece of functionality here. Weeks, this week and next week, right? Shopping cart will keep track of all items added from the store catalog, right? This does not have persist, right? So, example, I log in, right? Or I do stuff and then I go away, come back. Doesn't have to remember what you had in your shopping cart. Then you'd have to set up a whole other slew of back-end stuff, like another database to keep track of a certain shopping carts. Very complex, and you don't have time for the 3 weeks you have. That's why I say it doesn't have to persist. It doesn't have to remember your shopping cart. You have to do that. It's not required, okay? I'm telling you this because I've had people who are like, Tom, I couldn't make my shopping cart. Shopping cart will display the totals of all items added, including taxes. So in the shopping cart, you should have all the items. What is the total cost right now? Shopping cart will allow you to change the quantity of each product that has been added. So if I have a dress, maybe I want 2 dresses now. That's small. I want the same dress twice. I don't know why, but some people do that, right? And the shopping cart will include a checkout button that will redirect only registered users browsing anonymously. It will redirect them to log in or register. All right, so you can shop, You can add to the cart, but check out as if you're registered. Very simple, right? Okay, 3. And you notice why this is a four-man project or well, part of it you already have if you're going to do the restaurant. And I'm fully aware that most of you will probably do that. You probably extend your restaurant so you can line. That's perfectly fine. I'm okay with it because then all you have to do is add in the shopping cart and some management pages, and you're good to go, right? Like these 2 sentences, if in your restaurant pages, so number 2, number 3, and number 4, you'd have to add in. And that's fine. I'm okay with if you did that. If you just kind of extended the fantasy restaurant and made an online ordering system, I'm totally okay with it. However, a lot of manpower, you know, as an example, or woman power, and you want to build something else, it's okay, right? So registered users may elect to check out after they are satisfied with their selections. Checking out will allow the user to select the mock payment option. It is assumed that any payment option selected is valid for this application. So whatever they choose, they've been approved. Numbers or anything like that. It's just choose credit card, done, right? Users will not be required to enter credit card or debit card information or other sensitive information because they don't want trouble. Yeah. Okay. Once the payment option is selected, the user may click a finalize order button, which will redirect. That confirms that the order has been accepted and that they will receive their product within a specified time frame. So the order confirmation page, it's something that says, thank you for your order, you'll receive it within 10 business days. That's it. Nothing else, right? Like a thank you, that's all it is. Another section, user management and site security. User registration must be included. A form will allow the user to enter stored in a SQL database structure. The user will be able to log in, log out, and reset his password. Those are the 3 things he can do. Okay? Various security will prevent any non-registered users from checking out or entering secure areas of the site. Right? So there's basic things for site security. Right? So that's it. That's what you'll be required to do. Site structure, you've seen it before, assets folder, a SQL database that's hosted hopefully on Azure, right? That's what I recommend. It's not a bonus to do this time around, okay? You require a kind of online database, okay? Internal documentation, external documentation, all the regular stuff you've seen before, and then, you know, you can talk about other kind of bonuses. Notice that it didn't say something like, did I ever say anything product management, like checkout and order information, shopping cart, all that stuff is here. But there was no area. This is user management. Well, there's no place here for product management, right? What does that mean? It means it's a bonus if you do that kind of work, right? So if you do product management and you already have this is going to be bonus work for you, probably in the realm of 4 to 6 marks if you did it properly, right? It's a good thing. Okay, total marks for this whole thing is 90 points I'm looking at, right? 90 points. Project, which is not that difficult if you work with your team properly, is with 30% of your final grade because it kind of covers everything. Working with somebody else, MVC, creating a catalog, you know, the whole e-commerce idea, and then you can put on your resume, I've built an e-commerce. Basically, you know, the small piece parts. You may have not done it in every system, and you may not be real, but you've mocked, right? Let's talk about the details of what's due next week and the following weeks. So each part is broken down into little. Part 1, your project concept, your landing page, and site security. Really, part 1, on site. Not a lot to do here. However, you do need to change a couple things. 1, some wireframes. Like, for example, you need to include things like refactor your list because it needs to add either an add to cart button, and your details page needs an add to cart button. And you also tough to talk about on your restaurant site right now, like your checkout page, your shopping cart pages, all that stuff, how they look, all those things you need to wireframe. So all I'm looking for next week is, hey, who am I working with? Got to put that in there, right? Like, document, what's a restaurant site? Are you doing something else? Like, I want to know. Like, those things are due next week for 10%. Like, really, at the end of the day, think about what I'm asking here. And it tells you in a little rubric what I'm looking for. Your home controller related views, your landing page, your about page, and your contact page have to be there. Security setup and views cleaned up. What this means is, don't give me site security. Don't give me other views in your site security that you're not using. Owen and OAuth, which is like logging in through Facebook or anything like that. Those are bonuses. If you can have a user log in through Facebook to your site, researching and trying to figure that out, that functionality. By the way, it's not that difficult. Making your email form work or something like that is a bonus, right? All those bonuses, right? I'm not going to make you do it though. Okay, initial site security setup, site structure, responsive site was all set up. That's easy. You probably already have that already if you're doing a fancy restaurant. So this is like 4 easy marks, right? Internal documentation, set up your comment headers, who's working on stuff on any one of your pages that you're working on. That's a kind of a good practice. Your external document, you need to have your own company logo. Please make your company logo with your team, if it's people. Maybe you want to smash your two logos together or put them together, like side by side. Here's, team A, which is these two people, and then you got both their logos, like it's a combined effort, right? This is this part, right? Your external documentation, table of contents, detail app description, color and typography, and wireframes, which is, you're getting some points of wireframes. And your GitHub repo created, and your cloud provider is set up. All the setup stuff is happening for next week. That's what I'm looking for. So everything should be functional in terms of basics, right? All the stuff, so we don't have to check that. If you get that started for next week, it's worth 10% out of the 30%, just by doing that. When you hate your partner, this is a great time for the partner to move and move away from part one, and now, right after next week, there's no moving. Right? If you move and do something with part two, you're staying with them part two after next week, because it's too logistically difficult for me to mark. Right? Which team are you with? Did I say, well, if you don't clearly outline who you're working with in each of the parts, right? Then I don't know. Remember that I want you all to submit, all of you to submit every time you do an assignment. So each of your submissions, even if you're submitting, let's say for example, Javid and I are working together, right, as partners, right? And we're doing part one. Javid's going to submit part one, and so am I, right? Please do that. I'll just submit for both of us. No, please don't do that. Please both submit. Yes. And I did the same thing with the other project. The reason for this is because somebody always forgets, right? And at least if the other person, right, the assignment, I don't have to chase everybody. And please also tell me in the project who you're working with. If Javid and I are working together, then on his project, don't say it's just Javid. No, it's both of us, because we're both working on the project, this part. Okay, so please do that submission for first part. Do December 2nd, that's Friday at midnight. No extensions. We have no time for extensions now. Now we're at the last legs of our report. Every Friday for the next 3 weeks, right? Because this week's week 11, week 12, week 13, week 14. That means even an exam week, last time it's due, right? That's the last piece that's due on the Friday of the exam week, okay? There's no extension because they can't afford extension. All right. Notice what it says for part one. Submission details for part one. First draft of your external document, a link to your GitHub, whether it's preferably Microsoft Azure, and a zip archive of your website's project files for part one only, submitted to Blackboard, I recommend GitHub repos for each part, right? So part 1, create a GitHub repo. Part 2, make a new project, use the templates to create a new project, and make another GitHub repo. That way, one GitHub repo isn't the other one, all right? So every part is separate. And I can make some complete practice for you guys anyway. What I've asked. So whatever the external document, okay? Okay, so part 2. That's due the following week. Notice the mark differential. This one's only worth 20, and this one's worth more, 36 points, but also worth 10%. Why? So that each of them are equal. I don't care how many points. Let's say, for example, you didn't submit part 1 for whatever reason. That's terrible. But you didn't submit the part, okay? Okay, so part 2, your product catalog page should be working. Again, think about this. If you already have your fantasy restaurant, you're already into part 2, right? Part of the page, and then some other issues here. There's some things that are missing from your catalog because again, you don't have an add to cart button, you don't have that piece done. You know, some other part 2, shopping cart page first draft. This part you do not have. So this part you're gonna have to add for 4 marks functionality. Notice that the marks, it's 4 points and 6 points for a total of 10. So there's like 10 marks just for shopping cart. That's what's due week 2. Means you need to know how to do the shopping cart. Users should be able to browse the product catalog page, add items from the product catalog page to the shopping cart, and modify the shopping cart before checkout. Information pages, first draft only. So how to make them go, you know, kind of thing. Site structure a little bit updated. So sample product up in the all your products yet. If you're making a new kind of website, if you have your fantasy restaurant, you're good to go, right? You have nothing to add, right? Internal documentation. It tells you to add some class and method headers, and version control. Update your GitHub repo here for your GitHub repo. That's really due week 2. So again, if you already have your fantasy restaurant, the only thing you're adding here is your checkout and your that's it. Really, at the end of this, what you're really focusing on, and some other wireframes, minor style and control other things. But otherwise, you know, for the most part, if you've done assignment 2, then part 1 and part 2 should be easy. Right? Again, from a submission perspective, you do another submission. So I would recommend, again, do another GitHub repo. Don't use the same GitHub repo. So that way, there's no way to fork your repo and do other kinds of things like that so you can keep your commits. Talk to me if you don't know how to do that. Finished version, which is fully styled and functional. That's why it's worth 10%. Your product catalog, make sure that it's all ordered correctly. If you're going to do cards along your catalog instead of a list, make sure it looks perfect. Your details page is fixed up. Your cart page is fixed up. This is your final version. So when I look at not next week, but the week after, so when you submit on the week that I'm not here, right, as an example, almost done. You should be almost done at that point, okay? Site security is updated to prevent non-registered users from checking out. So in the first, users can check out. Let them do it. Don't have to include site security if you don't want to. Although I bet you most of you will. I'll tell you right now. After the second part, you've probably done 90% of it, right? It's not going to be a lot of work from here to this. From part 2 to part 3, there's not a lot of work. I'm giving you this 10% for, right? Include additional image assets as required for your site to look stylish and complete. So this is where I'm doing some other additional little products in the database to promote the look and feel of a more complete store prototype. Validation attributes added to models to improve usability. Confirm all code is error-free, right? Internal documentation is updated. External documentation is updated with screenshots for all the pages and the final version of your GitHub repo. So all this stuff is just patching up the holes And that's what's worth 10%. So really, if you're not next week, but the week that I'm not here, we have a whole workshop week, a whole week to work on this stuff that's due Friday. Remember, there are extensions on this stuff because you have a whole week. I'm giving you 4 hours where you can just come to class, even if I'm not here, and physically work with you, right? When I'm not here physically, right? Which is a good thing. You need class time. And most of you can do that. Most of you will not do that. I guarantee you will not be here, or eating something or meeting your advisors, right? Whatever you're going to do, right? At the end of the day, you're not going to be here. They don't show up. But this is a room you can use for that day. Why wouldn't you come use it, right, for your teams? I highly recommend it. Rather, work on your stuff, bang out your issues, and you got 4 solid hours, or even a couple hours that you can work together on that day, right? Here. So this is due week 14, which is the last week of school, right? So a few weeks from now, on the Friday at midnight. You'll require your final draft of your external document, a link to your final GitHub repo for part 3 only. Look, notice what it says. Recommend for each of these things, right? Because that way there's no corruption between one repo and the other, right? A link to your cloud provider live. Right? Each of your, look, the great thing for us to do here, Azure allows you to create as many web applications as you want, okay? The database would have to be the same database, right? But at least your web parts, like each of the links, you could say AzureWebsites.net. Final project.2 .azurewebsites.net. Final project-3 Azure different functionality, right? And then, of course, the final thing is a zip archive of your website project files. You put eCentennial, of course. I always put Blackboard. I don't know what the hell. Blackboard's in my brain, but this should say eCentennial. So if you say Blackboard, ignore it, please. Right? eCentennial. Okay, it's just our learning system. So then, once you've got that. All the details for the pages are here. This is what I'm looking for. And the final rubric of where all the marks are. Notice that UI functionality. Like a lecture is still important with 11 marks out of 90, right? That's like 10% right there. And then between internal documentation and external documentation version, that's like 13 and 8. That's like 22. That's almost like 20% of your marks are fluff. Like it's external docs, GitHub and Azure, that's 20% of your mark, right? Out of all this stuff. So yes, and girls, right? Any questions around project 2, right? Now this is your final project. So 30%, and I'm going to try, like I said, over the next week or so, I'll announce how we're going to do the final exam. But my guess is that it'll either be worth only 10%, it'll be optional. And if you want to come in to do a final exam, I'll give you a bonus of up to 10%. So it means and you completely fail and you only get 1 out of 10, that's 1 bonus mark. Nothing to lose, in other words. I haven't figured this out yet, so please don't take me on my word yet. When I figure it out, I will announce it next week, what's going to happen. But I'm trying to push for that. People who didn't do so good on their midterm, or they messed up an assignment, or they forgot to do, they didn't do a submission from one of their project milestones. They don't think they did projects. It's okay, right? The final exam is going to make up one of your tests, or one of your exams, or one of your assignments, right? That's what I want it to be. Yeah. Yeah, I might do that too. That's a good thing. I might do a practical or a theory. I might consider that. I'll see how it goes, how much work is involved, right? To do one or the other, So any questions around final project? I know I've talked about final project to death. Like I've kind of given a preview. I've been talking about all the details, and I wanted to record everything. So worst case scenario, you can always go back and go, so what does he look looking for? Oh, yeah, looking for, right? And so please, the people that are in the room, please ask me those questions, because that way I can at least address them for everybody else. So anyone, the question, think about this. You're building a catalog. I will just ask you a question. Is anyone thinking about building something else other than a fantasy restaurant? So you build something else. So you guys are building fantasy restaurant part 2 kind of thing for your final project, right? You guys too, I'm guessing? All you guys building fantasy restaurant part 2? Or, how about Eddie? Eddie and your partner, you guys building fantasy restaurant part 2? Or are you going to build something else? Not sure yet. Okay. We know. Then the gentleman there, fantasy restaurant? Fantasy restaurant. All right, so okay, that's a good question. What if you didn't want to work with 4 people, you only want to work with 2 people? Would I allow that? Of course, right? You can work on your own if you want to. That's crazy, but you're good, right? So if you want to stick with your groups you have right now and only work with the partner you have, fine. You don't have to work with anybody else. You'll work with a partner, right? It's optional. In the real world, you might be forced, right? Because in the real world, we never work alone, right? You know, it's a good thing to do. Here's something else I always get asked. Can I add a 5th person? See how? I really don't. I mean, this is like 4 people to me is enough as it is. What are the people going to do? Are they going to, is one person, right? Like, I just don't see what they're going to do, right? I mean, 5 people is just impossible. I cannot see 5 people ever, right? So together, like they give someone sent me a note on Slack and said, we made a mistake. There's, you know, we're supposed to only have 4, but now somehow we have 5. I understand what you guys are doing. If you guys have 5 people working together, like in a big team like that, the website has got to be rock solid. Crazy marketing. I'll probably be a little harder marketing you guys than everybody else. Just saying, right? Because you got an extra person. What is that person doing? Just sitting around now. Yeah, moral support, right? When I'm in university and I work with other people in a group, I'll tell you right now, more than 3 people, right? It's hard for me to find work for the 4th person. More than 3 people, because mostly 3 people are good enough to put their heads together. Is like, you know, it's like the 5th wheel kind of thing. It's like, it's really weird, right? I don't know how, there's no need for that person. It's like, you know, 2 teams can come together, right? So you can really have 2 teams that have 2 ideas, and they come together and they can make something that's nice. You know, ideas and all that kind of stuff. I recommend for logistics, assign roles to everybody. Like maybe one person's security, right? And the styling of those pages. So give them that role. One person just site security. One person is going to be in charge of the shopping cart, and what they take care of. That's one person's role, right? The other person is going to be in charge of the menu stuff, menu pages, right? So all the menu stuff and everything. See what I'm saying? Not a lot, right? Maybe CSS, or maybe he's going to do the external document, or she's going to. Maybe someone's taking. Look, I told you right now, it's with 20% of your final grade. Putting it up on GitHub, right? Maybe that person's going to be the GitHub person, the GitHub director. Maybe that person's going to be connecting the database. All that other dirty stuff that they have to do on the back end. That's 4 people. Now, what's the 5th person going to do? I'm sorry, nothing. They're not going to definitely look at you and eat and drink their soda. You know, their soda. They're not going to go like slurp on their, you know, on their crush. They're like, guys, that's fantastic, right? It doesn't make any sense, right? So 5 people, unless you have a specific role for that person, please run it by me. I've got someone by accident. No, right? 5 people by accident. It's like 5 people by design, right? Now, here's the other thing that sometimes, right? You know, there's a person that's like a stray, right? I have no partner. I'm on my own. I don't have any, and you know, I'm suffering, sir. What can I do, right? Because I don't want to put anyone out in the cold and in the rain either, right? I don't want you to suffer working on. You know, I can't find a group. I'm not going to force you on. I'm not going to say, hey, Eddie, guess what? You're taking John. He's going to work with you now. I don't care. John now. And then you're like, who's John? I never saw John. He doesn't belong in this class. Too bad, right? Like, that's crazy for me to do that. I would never do, no, never. I would never do that. So at the same thing, I wouldn't say, you know what? Guess what, Javid, you're going to take Dhruti. Dhruti's going to work with you from now on. Yeah. We don't even know each other, but guess what? Now she's going to work with you. I'm not going to do that. That's crazy for me to do that. I would never do that. What? So I won't do that. I won't force people to, or yes, Dhruti, you're going to take Javid in your team because you know what? I don't care if you don't like him. He's coming, right? I'm not going to. But at the same time, if you have that kind of weird thing, I'd rather you guys go down to 3 and 2 than 5. Okay, I'll tell you right now. I'd rather you guys do that because work for the 5th person. There's just nothing for them to do, right? So I have to put a kind of a hard cut on this one and say there's only 4 in extraneous circumstances. And if that's the case, I want to meet your team next week. All right. So if you've got a team of 5 somehow, us next week, because if you're not here, I'm not going to accept it. All of you are going to get 0. All right. Because it doesn't make any sense for me. Right? So if you got a team of 5, I'm putting it out there on the video, come to class and explain yourselves because I need to understand why you're going to be working with a team of 5. And definitely nothing bigger than 4. I come over. I don't want to get a Slack message. I'm not going to respond to Slack. I need to see your beautiful faces next week. That's it. All right. All right. So that's really the project in a nutshell. I think it's a great place to stop. I've talked my brains out for about an hour about the project. Anytime we have a project and I don't speak so in depth about it, people ask me really weird questions like, so Tom, do I need a security added to my site? What do you guys think? Answer is yes, of course you need security, right? It's there, I just talked about it. Tom, can I add a 5th member to my group? No, definitely not. Hell no. I'm not. Tom, if I wanted to do, my fantasy restaurant and add weird pictures to it, can I do that? Can I add inappropriate pictures to it? You're selling food, not something else, right? So please don't add other things to your restaurant site to add extra section of it. Can I make my restaurant site really work? Because I want to challenge. No, do not make your restaurant site really work. You will not finish. You only have 3 weeks. It seems easy, but to give yourself a challenge, do e-commerce website in 3 weeks, a fully working one. It's impossible to do it right, and you're gonna gain marks and lose marks, and you're gonna mess up. Please don't do that. Right? Any other questions you guys can think of? Please ask them now so I can record. Remember that next week when we get together, we want to shore up the shopping cart, and if we have time, we'll do single-page application stuff with English. Not yet? Okay, guys, thanks so much. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll talk security.